Hi there, this is Doug, the Eclipse Whisperer, once again, and we are going to do a brief video with discussion on the General Ledger report generator and report template tool in Solr. Uh, it's a wonderful, quirky little thing, and hopefully I can demystify a couple of quirks anyway. That's my attempt. So, as we've mentioned, there are literally hundreds of reports in Eclipse in various sections that allow you to do um, certain job functions better. And the general ledger report generator is an unusual tool from the other reports. As I mentioned, there's like what 4 or 5 different reporting systems in Eclipse, from the old style mass load report writer uh, to the web-based Eclipse reports from Solr, uh, and so this is another one of those. Why Eclipse over the years decided to create so many different reporting tools? Well, you have to ask them. But it's a good job security, because once you learn these things, no one else on Earth is ever going to be able to understand it or want to take your job. So there you go. So the general ledger reports generated for the from the report generator are the monthly, quarterly, annual business summary type of reports. They are the trial balance, the balance sheet. I suppose a profit and loss statement could be done in there too. Those types of overall business view reports that you'd send to the executives. And I'm not an accountant, thank God, because I'm slightly dyslexic and I hate numbers. But my understanding is that the most foundational report of all of those is the trial balance, and that's where the magic starts as you build the business reports to give to the executives. So this is confusing as all hell. So what you have in Eclipse is you have a report, general ledger a report template, where you select all of the accounts off the general ledger accounts and group them, and then you have a report generator where you specify some date grouping, summation, and that type of thing, and then you run it. The two come together with the branch information that you've selected, and you get an output. And of course, as with all things Eclipse, wouldn't it be lovely if something like that came out in a spreadsheet? It doesn't. Anyway, so moving forward on this, first place we want to go is take a look at the templates. And bear with me, because they stick it in a place that I always forget. I think it's under GL maintenance. Okay, GL template maintenance. Now in your system, the system should have already come with some rudimentary Eclipse templates. They're of course not going to be accurate. They're just there to kind of show you some idea of how they go together, and then you're going to have to create them yourself. So let me look here and see if I can find one of the Eclipse templates. Okay, so there's trial balance ECL. Okay. You select the template and you update it. You won't see anything until you click update. All right. So this template is a selection of the GL accounts that were selected most likely when the installer first installed the system with the company. As you can probably imagine, over the years, additional bank accounts get created, different expense accounts and those types of things, notes payable, assets, and that whatnot. And so this template I guarantee you will be out of date. But it's just a good example of how these things are selected. In this particular case, it hasn't been grouped, which is, well, that's typical for Eclipse. Anyway, so let's go take a look at something that I've been playing with currently. Well, actually, let me step back here a bit. And if you're going to create a template, you should have a very firm idea of what GL accounts that you have available to select and work with anyway. And that's a whole nother kettle of fish. Now you can create a template in here and put in all the accounts that are in the GL, but it's not the most elegant, and it's really easy to miss a couple. So let's see here. I have a template here for that one. Okay, and we update again. Alright, so for this particular company, I found all the GL accounts that we're actually actively using and dumped them all in one template, and now I can run a trial balance all, and it's in alphabetical order. It's not grouped any further than that, and that gives me some idea of what I want to play with for another more concise template. Not perfect. What I would suggest you do actually is use one of the Eclipse report writers and pull the GL account information from that. So for example, going back to my old favorite eTerm. Okay, so here's a report I created in eTerm a while ago that pulls out from the general ledger all the accounts. I want to get the keyword information as well as the descriptive information, because quite often when you're creating general ledger accounts, you would put in the keyword a numbering system in order to group the accounts according to GAAP, General Accounting Procedures. Anyway, so I would run this and get my listing of accounts, which I have already done that. And this is what the text export of that report would look like. And as I mentioned before, I think in this system we're using four-digit accounting numbers, and so that's what's showing up here in the key. When you see things like this, these are Eclipse accounts. They're accounts that are going to show up in the general ledger that are internal accounts that usually exchange accounts that you see with Eclipse keywords on it, and of course the record ID, because each one of these is a record in the Eclipse Universe PIC database. And here's the same report in Excel after I've run one of my Python converters on it, which makes it much easier for me to work with. And as I said, since I'm an accountant dunderhead, a bad amateur at best, it takes me a while to sort and group these things accordingly. In general accounting procedures, typically accounts are given 3-digit numbers, but I mean, depending on your company, you might have 10-digit numbers assigned to them, but they always have the same general sequence to them. And when I set up this particular system back in 2017, this was the general coding schema that I used for the account numbers. This is a more common type of thing, but as you can see, just add a 0 so you've got more subs to it. The grouping of accounts, well, hopefully you're an accountant when you're doing this, because otherwise it's going to be a little ugly for you to try and sort out liabilities, revenues, expenses, and such and such. So we won't get into that because, as I said, not an accountant. Okay, so back in our template maintenance. To move around to different templates, you either have to highlight the template ID, backspace it, and then select another one from the drop down, or you can hit Control period, I think, most of the time, and that'll blank it out so you can select another one off the list. So let's see here. What's a good one to pick? Okay, so rather than futzing around with an existing template which can give you some misleading information, I'm going to show you a little bit on a one that we'll create as a new one. So perhaps it's less confusing. So we select new, and since this is an old system, don't expect to make 128 character descriptions. Try and make them brief. In this case, we're going to be TB example 1 there, TBX1. Alright, in this case this is just some simple formatting. So I like to double underline the totals column. I like to keep the headings. I like to do a 5-space indentation because it's a little clearer for me to read. And I like to reverse the results, negative numbers to positive numbers, because once again I'm not an accountant. It's easier for me to read credits and debits if they're reversed and not negative numbers. Anyway, so we go ahead and do that, and we've got our new template. Now we start adding things to the template. And this tool it's slow, it's annoying, it's quirky. It does do the job, but keep in mind, written years ago, and you get what you get. And this is also a Java application, and a little unwieldy. Anyway, so one of its quirks is all these options are grayed out until, even though this is a new thing, until you do update. Even though there's nothing in it. Then all of a sudden now you can insert, remove, and add items. Okay, so we start off with an insert. If I were you, I'd start off with groups. Try and group your accounts. It makes them easier to work with these templates later on. Trying to add groups later after the fact gets ugly. Anyway, so so I'm going to create a group. I'm going to call it assets. Actually, let's play expenses here. Okay, so I'm going to call that expenses, and it is a group. All right. Once we've created a group, then you want to insert things into the group. So add first, insert next. And this tool will always insert an item right above what you have highlighted. It does not allow you to move things around. Once you've got them entered, all you can do is remove them and then insert and then put a new one in. So keep that in mind. So don't do like me and actually give some forethought as to how you want to group these. You want to group them by the GL account code numbers that you've assigned to them in the keywords, or you want to do it by alphabetical or astrological symbols, or whatever it is. But give it some thought before you get involved in putting the template together, and it will save you a bunch of trouble trying to fix. Keep in mind, you can also take existing templates, copy them, and modify them. But depending on the template, you'll cause yourself more trouble and more time trying to copy a imperfect template and finding gotchas in there that you hadn't anticipated than you are from creating a new one. In these groups, you can put in heading information. Keep in mind, just because I call this group expenses, when I go to actually run this in Report Generator, it's not gonna type expenses for me. So I'm actually gonna have to put those headings in. So, and I like to put a little colon in there, and of course the totals are going to be at the very end of the group. So do expenses total. That's good. And now we'd go ahead and we'd add something into, insert into this particular group. Now You can insert groups in groups. Not sure about the inserting a template. I guess you can take another GL template that you've created and embed it as a shortcut. I'd prefer not to do that. So in this case, I'm gonna do a GL account, and I can do a drop down and select from there if I want. Although you're going to be playing through that for a while, so as I said, having that GL report listing here, so you can refer to that. It makes things a lot easier for me anyway, and hopefully it does the same thing for you. So let's see what's a good expense here. Yeah, we got all kinds of gobbledygook. Yeah, okay, I've got a good one, something that you probably are all familiar with every time you get to see the wonderful bill from Epicor, and that is Eclipse support. So I'm going to type in Eclipse here and select Eclipse support. All right, and there it is on that. Now if I leave that highlighted and I add another account, it's going to put right above that. So if say you're trying to do something alphabetical, keep that in mind, or else you're going to be doing remove and and insert a lot to fix it. If I made a mistake here, of course you can remove the item and you remove the group the same way. I'm going to add another item. This one's utility. I want to do this in alphabetical order, so I'm going to highlight the very end of this particular group, do an action, and insert item there. And of course we got to select GL account every blasted time. So we're going to look for utilities, and yeah, water into a sewer sounds good, and we'll go ahead and add that. And so that's how you go. And keep in mind, if you start removing and adding and you're trying to keep this in some type of sane order, you routinely have to save your changes and then refresh it with update. If you want to confuse the heck out of yourself, once this goes down a page or two and you start deleting and adding things and you don't do a save and an update, when you go to run your report or look at this template again, it's all going to be scrambled out of order, and you're gonna question your sanity. So that's the issue. So if I wanted to, let me add another account here. Let's see here. Whoops. Fat fingers. Come on. Oh, group. SBGL account. Utilities. Oh, I'll do electric. All right. And add another one, and insert item, and general account again, and utilities, and yeah, telephone. Okay, and I'm looking at this, and I'm going, oh, I've got this out of order. Shoot. Now, there are a couple of ways of handling this. You can blank it out and rearrange it. That can cause some confusion, but let's see what we got here. Okay, so I could select electric there, and then make this one, blank that out, and telephone, and blank that one out, and trash. I could do it that way. I run the risk of scrambling things, so to confirm that I actually got it right before I go any further, once again do a save and update and refresh it and make sure that everything stayed in sequence. And as we can see here, despite what I told it, it reversed it. So once again, you'll question your sanity. Also keep in mind, as you go through these things, if you put an account in one area and it's in another area again, this tool will not tell you that you've duplicated in two different spots. So it's easy to mess that up. It's also very easy if I had utilities electric in two different places by accident, and I've done this where in the other spot I didn't realize I had it duplicated, highlighted it, and tried to put something above it, and it added it, and it added it entirely in the wrong group in a different spot. What the hell? And it got confused on what I was trying to do because there were some duplicate accounts. So keep in mind, if you're getting quirky behavior, you've got an error in the system and it's being confused on the error, or you haven't saved and updated and refreshed, and the fields and the column order that you think you're inserting in is outdated, and you're putting things in the wrong place. So keep that in mind. Anyway, so once again, not insane here. So to clear this up, we remove that one, and we do a save, then we do an update, and now I can put the one in the place that I wanted, and that's here. What was that? Was trash, so it's going to be at the bottom. So we do an insert line, GL account, utilities, UTIL, trash. Okay. It looks like it's in the right place. We're going to save it again, save it, and then do an update. And okay, and this time it's stuck. So that's a quirk. It will make you stick straw in your hair and make crazy noises. So be aware of that. Save, update anytime you're adding, removing, and trying to keep things in some type of sequence. All right. So let us move on here, and rather than doing this 300 more times, we'll look at one of the end results here. And all right, so here's a more accurate final trial balance template that I've created for this company. And what we have here is I've got them sorted out in mostly alphabetical order, and except when it makes sense to group them in something that makes sense, like all the accounts for bank accounts or Cashbox, which I decided to have separate from the other assets. I've put them, group of assets, group of liabilities, group of owner equity, group of revenues. You see my end groups. You see I've put heading information in here so it will print out. And expenses, cost of goods sold, etc., etc. I may not have this perfect. Once again, not an accountant, but it should generally be in the ballpark. All right, and so that completes the template. You can't generate the report until you have a template working. If you generate the report and you get crazy numbers, odds are it's because there's some essential accounts missing in the template, or they're out of order, or something to that effect. So now let's put that aside, and now we can go to the report generator. And yeah, they put them in different places to confuse the hell out of people like me. So you can, of course, create all kinds of variants of multiple reports, but we're going to use one that already exists. And I like this one better. Now, you can get pretty sophisticated with the report layouts on these things. I'm a dummy when it comes to accounting, therefore simpler is better. I try not to add too many variables in there that are going to confuse the hell out of me. So this is a simple trial balance report that I expect to run every month, or irregularly. It's hard to say. So in this case, it's gonna print out the description of each account. It's going to spit out the balance or the balance number, debit or credit. It's starting from the current year fiscal beginning of current year to this point in time, this month, this day, this year, as of the day I run the report. There are a whole different set of you can put in specific dating if you want to be exact, or you can come up with approximate dating codes. And there is, let me find the cheap sheet here. There is a whole way of putting in formulas in Eclipse for dating, and this is basically the shortcut. So MODAYR as of today, first of the month, end of the month. You get the idea. You might want to pause this, do a screen capture of this, because you'll be referring to this type of thing when generating Eclipse reports in the future. Anyway, so that's how you put in what they call variable dating in Eclipse for your reports and time standards. And this gets used in other report tools, the character formatting styles, especially in the old Eclipse mass load report writer, and these number formatting styles. And thank you, Eclipse User Group, for these wonderful cheat sheets. If you're not a member of the Eclipse Users Group, I highly recommend that you give those nice people the $400 a year or so that it takes to be a part of them, because the training videos and basic information that you have available from them is invaluable. I find them to be much more useful for basic training and information than the Eclipse training that costs, I believe, $6,000 a year. So much better bang for your buck money. And of course, as always, a plug to Xerion Group, fine bunch of people for Eclipse consulting, although a bit pricey. I'm cheaper. Yeah, but the kings over there can definitely help you out with your Eclipse bugaboos and customizations if Epicor doesn't seem to be able to quite do what you want to do. Anyway, enough of that shameless plug, although I actually don't work for Xerion, but I've dealt with them so many times over the years I might as well have. Anyway, so here we are back at our report generator. And of course, here's the basic layout with the variable dating. As I said, you can get incredibly creative with this. I prefer not to. I'm not a very creative person when it comes to accounting. Here's your basic options. I should have mentioned earlier that in the template, you may have seen off to the far right, there's a detail level number that you can put in there, and you can run reports. And if a set of accounts has a number that's higher than the detail level that you have in the report, they will fall off the report. That's a way of being able to create reports that are only showing numbers that you only want certain people in the company to see. In this case, perhaps I'm a bit of a dunce, but I don't like to hide things. I'd rather everybody see everything that needs to be seen, and they get the full view instead of a truncated, distorted version of reality. But that's me, and your mileage may vary. Anyway, once you've got all this set up and saved, you also have to specify which template you're using. So in this case, you see trial balance accounts 2. That was the sorted number. I could select any of the other various templates and save them. So between selecting the different templates and different variations in the geo report generator, you can come up with a lot of different variations to these reports off of just a couple of simple basics. So we do a file run report. In this case, we're going to do a consolidated report on all branches. This particular window likes to truncate itself. This is misleading for some strange reason. It did actually select 2 from there. I have no idea why it truncates that out. Probably it doesn't like the fact that my names are so long. Anyway, so after we do that, do not print. You want to run it, and you want to send it to your hold file. And here we can chop it up by branch, but in this case I just want to consolidate it. And so that goes off to Mr. Phantom, and Mr. Phantom will we'll run away and hopefully come back in a few minutes with a report. Hey, there we are, Phantom. So first thing it does is it generates an error report, and this is just going to tell you that, well, I should show you. So, errors. This is going to warn you that there were accounts, the GL accounts in your template that you didn't. There are more general ledger accounts that you have than there were in the template. And as a general rule, if a account has history, it probably has a balance that's non-zero, and you probably want to add it into your template. But that's not always the case. So you might have to run this a couple of times and make sure that your trial balance balances, which will indicate that you've got all the accounts that you wanted to get in there onto the template. So you know, this is just a little extra cross-check tool to help you out, so that you can get these things in order. All right, and then we've got our actual trial balance here, such as it is. Now, not terribly useful here. Typically, you're going to want to get it out into Excel so you can massage the numbers. Yes, I know. So, as always, with this, you're, whoops, did it the wrong way. Anyway, next step is to download this little bugger. So we go to Tools, Download, and this by default likes to save it in really weird places, so do not just type in a name and assume you're going to find where in the hell it put it. I think it likes to save it under Program Files, Eclipse, under your user account, and blah blah blah. Don't do that. Normally do a save as location and desktop normally, unless you're a kook like me, and I like to put everything in my temp folder. So TB sorted. Oops. Okay, and we ignore the fact that it's specified text file. It doesn't give you any other option. Unlike eTerm, you don't have to specify a extension name. It's going to do that for you. All right, so text file, which means you're going to get something in Notepad, which is impossible to cleanly format and put into Excel, unless you've got a lot of Python tools like I've developed over the years, because I'm a lunkhead. You could do spreadsheet format. That's gonna do a comma separated value, not an Excel spreadsheet. If you've dealt with the newer Microsoft Excel, I do not like their text import tool. It puts a bunch of filtering on. You got to specify a bunch of shit, and invariably it always gives me not quite what I wanted. So a simpler format that I would suggest is a tab delimited file, because a tab separated value file you can just drag and drop straight into Excel and not deal with all that stupid import wizard bullshit. And it'll put a TSV extension in it, which can be confusing for people, because a TSV file is not understood by Microsoft Windows. So you get a file that the Windows doesn't know what program to use to open it with. So just keep that in mind. It's not fatal in our case. All right, so we do our little download. All well and good. Now we can go over here to Excel. Let me close that one. And okay, to import a tab separated value, have Excel on a blank worksheet. Go to the place where you put the file. Here is our tab separated value. As you can see, it doesn't give any type of icon. It has no idea what it is. We click this, drag it, and drop it straight into Excel. There, no filtering nonsense. Thank you, Microsoft. Anyway, so we go ahead and chop off this heading here. Delete. And we're going to format it, auto fit. And we're going to highlight the headings here. Then we're going to view and freeze it, freeze the top row. And then we are going to save it as a spreadsheet. So File, Save As, and XLXX workbook, and we want to take off the .tsv off the end of the name. And there we are. As you can see, I've done this before. And hopefully if you've got all the accounts that had balances on them into your template correctly, the very bottom of this, the debits and credits should balance out. Cross your fingers. And yes, they do. Whee! See, and I'm not even an accountant. If I can do it, you can do it too. And that gives you the information you need to do the rest of the accounting reports that you would normally do. Of course, as I said, there's a balance sheet report, and I'm sure that you can probably create some of the other reports with the template generator as well. As I get to that point, I will have more videos. But anyway, so this has been, well, 20 minutes longer than I thought it would be, but hopefully it gave you some decent information on how to use the general ledger reporting tool and the templates to some effect to get the information out of Eclipse that you need to do your accounting reports. As always, this has been Doug Thashing. Thank you for your time and attention, and have a wonderful day.